Hi, it's King Mob, and I'm back on the telly again. And it's 1965, and it's Friday, and it's 6 o'clock, and the weekend starts here.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. Got to know how to hold it. Like on him a rolling. Mashed potato. Do the alligator. Put your hand on your hips, yeah. Let your backbone slip. Do the 1, 2, say. Like my little Lucy. Nah, 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 nah. Nah, 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 nah. Nah, 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 nah. I need somebody to help me say it one time. Nah, 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 nah. Nah, 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 nah. Nah, 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 nah. Wow. You know I feel all right. Huh. Feel pretty good, y'all. Huh. Nah, 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 nah. Nah, 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 nah. Nah, 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 nah. Come on, y'all, let's say it one more time. Nah, 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 nah. Nah, 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 nah. Nah, 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 nah. Wow. Dance to the night. A long, tall Sally. Twisting with Lucy. Doing the 1, 2, say. Roll over on your back. I like it like that. Do that jerk. Watch me work, y'all. I'll do it. I'll do it. Have me do it. I'll have me. I'll have me.
Ow! Let's do it! Boy, I bet that one bust a mic. Wilson Pickett. And that was the theme tune. It's not 1965, and it's not even Friday. But that was the theme tune for Ready, Steady, Go back in the 60s, when it was the big show. Wasn't actually the original theme tune. The original theme tune was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 by Manfred Mann. And on the early version of Ready, Steady, Go, it was kind of halfway like a sort of formal pop show. But they had this lovely girl called Kathy McGowan on it. And I'd never seen a natural performer before. I mean, they were all highly mannered people who presented television shows. Kathy was just like somebody you knew. And the only difference was Kathy knew people like Brian Jones and Mick Jagger and Paul McCartney and particularly Chris Farlow, King of the Mods. And Chris was a regular on Ready, Steady, Go, and even held his own in a duet with Otis Redding. Unfortunately, that's not good enough to play for you, but this one is.
Ever seen a blind man cross the road, trying to make the other side? Ever seen a young girl growing old, trying to make herself a bride? So what becomes of you, my love, when they have finally stripped you of the handbags and the glad rags that your granddad's had to sweat so you could buy? Once I was a young man and I thought all I had to do was smile. Baby, you are still a young style, and you bought everything in style. But once you think you're in, you're out. 'Cause you don't mean a thing without the handbags and the glad rags that your granddad's had to sweat to buy. Baby, bye-bye. Oh, sing a song of sixpence for your sake and take a bottle for a ride. 4 and 20 blackbirds in a cake, bake them all in a pie. They told me you missed school today, so I suggest you just throw away the handbags and the glad rags that your granddad's had to sweat to you goodbye. They told me you missed school today, so I suggest you just throw them all away. The handbags and the glad rags that your granddad's had to sweat to you goodbye. Baby, bye-bye.
Yeah, there's that dulcet Chris Farlow. I was lucky enough to work with Chris a few times, and top-notch geezer. He said to me, once a mod, always a mod. And I think that's, fair enough. Anyway, let's move on to something completely different. Let's come bang up to date, because I saw Radio Times. Since last week I did the first Telly show, and we're going to do a few of these. Boy, television's big. Actually, it's quite small. Well, they were small, now they're big. You go to people's places, it's like just a television. You go into some rooms, it's like the television's bigger than anything else in there. But I bought the Radio Times. I don't usually buy it because it said on the cover, the revolution will be televised. Anyway, I'm a bit cheesed off because apparently it's not.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Spyro Agnew to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nubs. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner because the revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on report from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of Whitney Young being run out of Harlem on a rail with a brand new process. There will be no slow motion or still life of Roy Wilkins strolling through Watts in a red, black, and green liberation jumpsuit that he has been saving for just the proper occasion. Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, And Hooterville Junction will no longer be so damn relevant. And women will not care if Dick finally got down with Jane on Search for Tomorrow, because black people will be in the street looking for a brighter day. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no highlights on the 11 o'clock news and no pictures of Harry armed women liberationists and Jackie Onassis blowing her nose. The theme song will not be written by Jim Webb or Francis Scott Key, nor sung by Glenn Campbell, Tom Jones, Johnny Cash, Engelbert Humperdinck, or The Rare Earth. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be right back after a message about a white tornado, white lightning, or white people. You will not have to worry about a dove in your bedroom, the tiger in your tank, or the giant in your toilet bowl. The revolution will not go better with Coke. The revolution will not fight germs that may cause bad breath. The revolution will put you in the driver's seat. The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
There you go, Gil. Actually, I played that song last Saturday at the. This is serious. I played it at the Sausage and Cider Festival at the town hall at in Lewes, because the Contenders, a great local band, weren't able to do it, and I had to fill in and played The Revolution Will Not Be Televised to an extremely confused crowd. And as I said to the harmonica player at the end, Peter Messer, I said, Peter, that was sparklingly inappropriate. And apart from that, Gil Scott-Heron was completely wrong. Actually, the revolution was televised. I mean, back in the day, we all saw the barricades in France. We saw the Kent State. We saw the Americans protesting against the Vietnam War. And what happened was people just went, oh, yeah, that's the revolution. It's like a telly show. So why do we bother? You know, what television did is kind of flatten the revolution. Much as I hate to disagree with Gil Scott-Heron, who is a tremendous artist and now dead, so he can't argue with me. I love Lucy. Well, what are you going to say about that? I mean, that show, that woman, that thing. I mean, back in the day, there's a lot of nonsense talked now about how women were in the workplace. Certainly in television, women back in the 50s and the 60s and even into the 70s more or less ran the whole show. The difference was they ran it through men. Lucille Ball was a highly talented film actress, gorgeous-looking woman. She never made it. It didn't quite happen for her in films. So she dug away and worked out a formula for a weekly television show, which she did seasons and seasons of, all live, all fantastic. She devised it, she produced it, and her husband, Desi Arnaz, was the beard. She ran it to him. I mean, Desi was kind of a nice guy, very man's man, so he could sit and talk with men. Lucy did it. If you look at Ready, Steady, Go, Vicky Wickham did it. If you look at lots of kids' TVs, it was Muriel Gray. So anyway, nowadays women don't work through men like that. They go out front and do it. Is that any better? Who am I to judge? Anyway, Lucy was the best. And what you may not know is that Lucy's theme had lyrics. And here she is to kind of, her and Ricky Ricardo are going to tell you about it.
Planned for weeks. We just couldn't get a hold of you. We ran out of the house. Nobody could find you.
Oh, no.
And I got a wonderful present for you. You want to hear it?
Hear it?
I love Lucy and she loves me. We're as happy as two can be. Sometimes we quarrel, but then how we love making up again. Lucy kisses like no one can. She's my missus and I'm her man. And life is heaven, you see. 'Cause
Well, there you go. That was Lucy's birthday, and then Ricky sings a song, and Babaloo, and before that, probably Lucy had got really confused as to what was going on because there was secrecy. She probably thought Ricky Ricardo was having an affair, maybe with Ethel next door. It was always confusion, but Lucy was gorgeous. Animation on television was a bit odd. Back in the day, the Walt Disney Company wouldn't sell stuff like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck to TV because Disney in the States had its own channel, and they wouldn't let those. Personally, I don't care because I could never stand the Disney cartoons. I can't stand that mouse. I don't know what the duck's talking about. I've never, ever enjoyed. I mean, I appreciate the artistry of something like Sorcerer's Apprentice or even Fantasia, but I just don't like the Disney stuff. I love the Warner Brothers stuff, which is Bugs Bunny, which is Roadrunner, which is Foghorn Leghorn. I say it, boy. I say it, boy. I just love that stuff, largely because it was offbeat, it was surreal, and it had wonderful voice characterizations by Mel Blanc. Not going to play you Mel right now, but I'm going to get round to Mel Blanc because Mel Blanc's like hidden star. Anyway, none of that was on. So what happened was a kind of weird hybrid animation thing got developed for television. People like Hallison Batchelor and Dick Williams developed a kind of cheaper line animation, which was standard cartoon fare for kids in the 50s and 60s. You did have Tom and Jerry, and that was lush. And you can't see Tom and Jerry anymore because people smoke and they have a black maid and there's all kinds of issues about it. Same reason you can't actually see the Warner Brothers stuff because Bugs Bunny was like deranged and dressed like a woman and kissed Elmer Fudd, and it's another world out there. Anyway, kids can't see that stuff nowadays, which is a shame, really. Pink Panther was developed as the front animation for the famous Peter Sellers Pink Panther series. Richard Williams, an animator I was lucky enough to work with on a couple of TV commercials, brilliant and highly focused and slightly strange, came up with a thing based around the character of the Pink Panther. And we all know the tune. That's koozie, Henry Mancini. I didn't mention, should have done, Ben just reminded me, the Hanna-Barbera crew. And that was American cheap line animation, but it was better than the European stuff. Yogi Bear, Deputy Dog. I like those. They came with the television. Sorry?
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Rocky and Bullwinkle. Ben, that's not Hanna-Barbera.
Is it not?
No. That's a different crew, and they did that thing, Mr. Peabody and Sherman traveled through time. Rocky and Bullwinkle, yeah, it's a different thing. Natasha and Boris, the spies that they were against.
Okay.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, but that's actually, I might be wrong, and I will admit it if I am wrong, but I don't believe it is. I think it's not Hanna-Barbera. I think Joe Hanna only died like a couple of months back. I read about it. Sorry to see him go. People just keep dying. What's going on? I mean, like, all those people that I remember are dead, almost, except me. Oh, that's frightening, isn't it? What am I going to play? I'm going to play a great thing now. I'm going to play Jimi Hendrix, and you can't knock that. I first saw Jimi Hendrix on the Ready, Steady, Go. He came on, and he played Hey Joe. And the thing that is most seen on YouTube is when he played the Lulu show, and he's playing Hey Joe, but he's fed up with it by that point. And the Cream have just broken up, and he confuses the band, Mitchell and Noel Redding, by just abandoning Joe and kicking off into a sort of instrumental version of Sunshine of Your Love. And it's made a great TV moment because it's like, hey, he's bored and he just does something and it's fantastic. But I have found for you a live performance from German TV of a really solid performance of Hey Joe, where he's not bored with it and he tears the guts out of it.
Hey Joe, where you going now? Run your head. Hey Joe, I said, where you going now? Run your head. I'm going to shoot my old lady. You know I call her mess around with another man. My old lady, you know I caught her messing around with another man. And that ain't too good. Hey Joe, I heard you shot your lady down, you shot her down. Hey Joe, I said, I heard you shot your lady down, you shot her down. Yeah. Yes, I did, I shot her. You know I caught her mess around town. Yeah. Yes, I did, I shot her. You know I caught her mess around town. And I gave it a gun. I shot her.
that's a monster. That really is. I mean, I'm just unbelievably happy about that. I'm also happy about this next track I'm going to play you, which is, I got to tell you, I'm not a Cilla Black fan. I mean, as a singer, at best she was a honker. I mean, she didn't really have it. Now, I understand that the girl had a lovely personality and was charming and everything, but as a singer, Cilla. Anyway, she had her own TV show, and if you wanted to go on that show back in the day, like Mark Bolan did, because you wanted to plug your records, and it was a BBC TV show. By the way, I got to context this. We're talking about television where everybody watched things at the same time. Millions and millions and millions of them. Now, to me, once it's diffused and I can watch a show on catch-up if I so cared to or whatever, it's all vague. And then somebody saw it and have you seen it yet? No, but I will tonight. And when everybody watched a television show, it gave it a real psychic charge. And we will be dealing with the big monster, Top of the Pops, probably next week. I didn't want to go there, but you can't do television, music, radio thing without going to Top of the Pops. So Mark Bolan turns up, he rolls up there, and he does a thing. And the price you got to pay in those days was like, got to do a duet with Cilla. Oh, my God. Mark handled it just exceptionally well and produced what I think is Cilla's most charming performance, and this particular version is actually one of my favourite pieces of music.
Right. Can I sing that one of yours, Life's a Gas? Please. Thank you.
I could have loved you, girl, like a planet. I could have chained your heart to a star. But it really doesn't matter at all. No, it really doesn't matter at all. Life's a gas.
I could have built a house in the ocean. I could have placed our love in the sky.
Yes, you could. But it really doesn't matter at all. No, it really doesn't matter at all. Life's a gas. I could have turned you into a princess.
I could have burned your fate in the sand.
But it really doesn't matter at all. No, it really doesn't matter at all. Life's a gas. It really doesn't matter at all. No, it really doesn't matter at all. Life's a gas, and I hope it's gonna last.
There you are. That's a live TV performance and rather charming. I used to see Mark back in the day with his early Tyrannosaurus Rex, and they were on loads of shows that I saw, and everybody just ignored them. You always just did. He was just the little guy that came on, he with his little wavery voice and the congas, and you went, what's that all about? Let's go for the bar. Anyway, then he turned up like 72 or something with Ride the White Swan, and we all went, oh. As did David Bowie. What am I going to play you now? I'm going to play something really weird. Early days of TV, somebody had to make them, right? I mean, you're broadcasting there at the old from the old Alexandra Palace. And by the way, with a TV connection, I used to live in Muswell Hill, in the road behind the Alexandra Palace. The top of our road was the place where British TV was first broadcast from. And but it was like only, when they first started broadcasting, late 40s, there's only a few TV sets. I think the Queen had one. She's always been a TV fan. She used to sit there smoking, apparently, and watching the TV. People don't know that the Queen used to smoke, which I find really funny. There's a great book by American book by Kitty Kelly, which has never been allowed to be released here. And apparently the Queen was always having a drag, and makes sense. I mean, we all knew Princess Margaret smoked. We just don't, Anyway, the Queen used to put her feet up, have a fag, and watch the telly. And her telly would be a rediffusion telly, because they were making those tellies and selling them. And in the weird way of things, they found the great composer, Eric Coates, one of the few post-war British classical composers that appreciated melody. All the rest of them went a bit mad on Stockhausen and that. But Eric, who wrote the Desert Island Disc thing, he was knockout. And for rediffusion to sell their televisions and play on rediffusion televisions, here's the Rediffusion March. was going to fade that, but I just couldn't. It was just so wonderful. You know, at the end of the night on the old telly, they used to play God Save the Queen. And apparently people stood up. Never stood up in our house, actually. But anyway, that's another matter. Queen. I wonder if the Queen stood up when she sat there watching, watching the telly, having a fag. And I wonder if she stood up for herself. Stand up for yourself, woman. Anyway, I've got to say, I'm King Mob, as you know. And actually, I love the Queen. I really do. I mean, I was in Hull, maybe, I don't know, 1970, and she visited. And I was in the crowd. She went past and she seemed to wave at me. I know she didn't. She was just waving. But I felt like I always liked her, and I've always liked her ever since. I don't like any of the rest of them at all. I can't stand the royal family. But the Queen, I absolutely adore. And God save the Queen, as the Sex Pistols say. The Clangers. She probably watched the Clangers. Everybody watched the Clangers, except me. I didn't watch the Clangers. I never even knew anything about them. And then when I got married, my wife Jackie, she said, oh, I'm sorry, that'll be her on the phone now. Hang on. Sorry, Jackie, I'm busy. I'm on the radio. Yeah, I'm doing... No, the weekly show, the Radio Lewes thing that I do. I was just talking about you and the Clangers. You remember when we bought that, like, it was a pink VHS box, and you brought it home and said, this is the Clangers, and I didn't know what it was, but they were wonderful. Here they are.
Find out when we add new clips and build a playlist especially for your child by subscribing for free.
Who was that man? What's all that about? Subscription list for you trying to sell things to kids? Mind you, there's a lot of that goes on. Anyway, the Clangers. Pure charm. Pure, I don't know what, really. Weird as anything, lived on the moon. I don't know. Were they knitted? I don't know. It's so weird. But beautiful. Beautiful weird. And well done to BBC for coming up with such a strange idea. The BBC also did, I realised after I'd done the fake Beatles show the other week, as people said, oh, it's like the Ruttles. Actually, it wasn't anything like the Ruttles, and I dispute that. Ruttles took another very funny way of looking at things, and I did like the Ruttles show. And Eric Idle, along with Neil Innes. But Eric Idle, although he's famous for doing the Monty Python songs, didn't actually write the songs, any of them, for the Ruttles. They were all done by Neil Innes, who was in the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band, and once produced a single for me that never got released. And we were all very excited to be working with Neil Innes. And he was decent, but he just wasn't funny. And I know quite a lot of comedians, as it happens, and none of them are, like, funny. I mean, like, if you hang out with comedians, everybody else is funnier than them because they save it. They save it for when it's like a job. Like a job. It's weird, that job thing. I used to use a sax player called Phil Todd. He was a brilliant sax player, a session sax player. And he'd say to me, people ask me to, they ask me to a party and say, bring the sax. He goes, if I'm at a party and they're a bricklayer, I don't ask them to bring a bloody trowel. Right? It's work. Anyway, back to the Ruttles / Beatles. The songs were good, and I like this one.
Nasty had written and published a best-selling book, Out of Me Head. Only one media remained unconquered, the cinema. In 1965, a hard day's rut changed all that.
I feel good, I feel bad, I feel happy, I feel sad. Am I in love? I must be in love. I feel rich, I feel poor, I'm in doubt, I feel sure. Am I in love? I must be in love. Any time of the day I can see her face when I close my eyes. She's a dream, she is real, can't explain how
Well, that fits the King Mob formula. Upbeat, cheery, and frankly, rather weird. Channeling of the Beatles by Neil Innes. And where are we going now? Ooh, happy days. I'm a small child and I'm wearing a woolen jumper and I'm sitting in front of the television with, I don't know, whatever I would be eating. My mother was a dreadful cook, so it could, wouldn't really matter. It all looked the same. Whatever the meal she served was, it looked like the same meal all the time. I was always very keen to eat out at other boys' houses. I'd go after school and hang around, and then they'd say, "Stephen, do you want to have some supper with us?" And I go, "Oh, yeah, thank you, that'd be lovely." Anything to avoid my mother's cooking. But we did have television in the house, and we had the Robin Hood show, which was really marvellous. And I think it was Richard Green all leaping about in tights, and it was Friar Tuck, and etc. Anyway, great theme song, which is written by and sung by Dick James. Dick James was a music publisher who later, then he was just a job-in singer, doing a television job, and he kind of lucked out, really, which is he bought the Beatles catalogue right at the start for a couple of £100. Did really well out of it. And then later on, with that money, he sets up a little recording studio thing. And there's this overweight, specky kid down there. After hours, this kid's making an album. And he takes it up to play to Dick James. And Dick James goes, "Yeah, that's not bad. I think we might put that out." And that was Elton John. It was basically just a T-boy kind of tape-op type thing. And he made this album. And I think Dick James, singer of the Robin Hood, liked it so much he formed a DJM label because they couldn't... That's right. So he had the publishing on it and no record company would take it up. Elton John was turned down by everybody. So Dick James formed his own record label. And here he is singing Robin Hood,
Robin Hood, riding through the glen. Robin Hood, with his band of men. Feared by the bad, loved by the good. Robin Hood, Robin Hood, Robin Hood. He called the greatest archers to a tavern on the green. They vowed to help the people of the king. They handled all the trouble on the English country scene and still found plenty of time to sing. Robin Hood, riding through the glen. Robin Hood, with his band of men. Feared by the bad, loved by the good. Robin Hood, Robin Hood, Robin Hood. Well, children, would you all like to join in with me?
Yes! No!
Robin Hood, riding through the glen.
Robin Hood, with his merry men. Loved, feared by the bad, loved by the... Oh, yeah, Robin Hood. It all comes back to me.
Robin Hood. He came to Sherwood Forest with a feather in his cap, a fighter never looking for a fight. His bow was always ready and he kept his arrows sharp. He used them to fight for what was right. Robin Hood, riding through the glen. Robin Hood, with his band of men. Feared by the bad, loved by the good. Robin Hood, Robin Hood, Robin Hood.
Hurrah! Hurrah, everyone! Hurrah for Robin Hood, because his bow was always ready and his sword was always sharp, or, I don't know, was he feared by the bad good or loved by the good bad? Doesn't really matter. I wonder where they got those kids from. Probably just, I think there used to be an organisation which was like Rent Kids. Because there was loads of kids, and children were happy back then. If they weren't, they were told off about it. You had to be happy. When we went out, we had to be happy. I mean, that was it. Modern cartoons on television, a bit smarter than they used to be. Futurama, for instance.
Little tiny bird, my name is Tweety Pie. I live inside my bird cage, hanging way up high. I like to swing upon my perch and sing my little song. But there's a cat that's after me and won't let me alone. I thought a putty tat a-tweeping upon me. I tore a putty tat as plain as he could be.
I am that great big bad old cat, Sylvester is my name. I only have one aim in life, and that is very plain. I want to catch that little bird and eat him right away. But just as I get close to him, this is what he'll say. I tore a putty tat a-creeping upon me. You bet he saw a putty tat. That putty tat is me.
That putty tat is very bad. He sneaks up from behind. I don't think I would like it if I knew what's on his mind. I have a strong suspicion that his plans for me aren't good. I am inclined to think that he would eat me if he could.
Well, that was the great Mel Blanc following Futurama. I wasn't going to play that, but I couldn't resist. Mel Blanc did the voice characterizations for every single Warner Brothers character. Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd, Daffy Duck, Foghorn. Roadrunner didn't need one because he never said anything. But if there was a voice, and he's doing both parts on that, Tweety Pie and Sylvester. Mel Blanc was just an absolute genius. And those cartoons, he was just working for a flat rate as a voiceover guy. And when the cartoons started to get really successful, which they were, actually, people used to go to movies just to see those cartoons. Mel went and asked for more money. He went to Leon Schlesinger, who was the head of the Warner Brothers animation department, and said, I need more money, otherwise I'm not going to do this. And Leon said, well, there just isn't any. There's no more money. So Mel said, well, then give me a credit. So that's why on all of the Warner Brothers cartoons, after the first year or so, you will see voice characterizations, Mel Blanc. Well, that paid the rent, because as soon as people in Madison Avenue saw that, they said, oh, That's the guy that does those great voices. So then he became the voice of Speedy for Alka-Seltzer, and Mel made an utter fortune just from the credit. Happy ending. Here's Led Zeppelin. Oh yeah, Neil Young's with them. And Jimmy Page is kind of out of it, so he's not playing any lead guitar. And towards the end, Robert Plant decides he's going to play some lead guitar. It's from like some Hall of Fame type deal. And it's just unbelievable.
happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there.